Okay everybody, today we're going to be touching up the tuning on a piano. It's a baby grand piano. It's real pretty, but it's needs a little help. So we need to fix that, and we're going to use our legendary Stroboconn, which is over there getting all warmed up. And the Stroboconn was good enough for pianos when FDR was president. It's still good today. To phrase it like our current president, it's going to be great, it's going to be fantastic, it's the best. We're just going to use our tuning fork here. I've got a couple of rubber mutes and our hammer, which by default I want to call it a wrench, but I'm not a professional piano tuner. So I've just got to slide this out of the way so we can get to all the pegs, and then we'll get started. As you know, this channel is sort of more geared around the technology end of things than it is actually the practical how-tos, but let's just take a look at what we got. We're going to start with our 440A, and there are 3 strings associated with said note. Okay, so if I take my rubber wedge and put it in between those 2 strings, now I only hear one of the 3 strings, this one, and then we can move it over here, listen to the other one, set that, and then we'll pull that out and then listen to all 3 of them together and touch up the middle one if need be. I don't know if you can hear the wobble. There's a little bit of a warble in a few of these notes where they kind of go wah, wah, wah while they're playing. That's what we're trying to get out of it. So we'll look at what the stroboscope says and go from there. Put this wedge on the correct one so we can start with our A440. Okay, so since I'm going to be looking at the Stroboconn, you're going to look at it too. A is that window right there, and I need to set my reference pitch. So I've got my A440 tuning fork. I'm going to strike that, hold it up to the microphone, and make sure that the spinner is stopped. And that looks like our Stroboconn is right on calibration. I'll try to zoom in on that so maybe you can get an idea of what I'm looking at. I know there's a lot of reflection. I have a lot of bright lights on. Let's try one more time. Okay, so it appears that that A is standing still. And since we'll start with that note on the piano, we'll just go with that. So let me play that note on the piano. And as you can see, it's terribly sharp. Probably is a little bright for the camera. I'll try to turn it down a little bit, but it's easier for me to see. And then we'll put our hammer on there and bring it down. Now it looks good on the stroboscope. It's going to be annoyingly difficult to get any of these 100,000% perfect because the stroboscope is so sensitive, but we're going to do a pretty good job. There's our far string, so I moved my mute and do the other string here. Bring that down too low and then bring it back up. Now the outside 2 are in tune, so we'll take our mute out and we'll listen to all 3 together. And I know this is going to sound awful, so we'll lower the middle string there that's off, and then we'll bring it up. That sounds like really good unison to me, but rather than trust my ears to be perfect, let's put the mutes in on either side of that and listen just to the middle string. And actually it looks like it's just a tinge flat, but we're talking a 1/16 of a cent. That looks good to me. Listen to all of them together. I hear no warbling, so I think we won. So we might as well just start moving up the scale. Tip you up so now we can look at the A sharp window, which is that one right there. And we'll just proceed to move up the piano. As you move up the register, if you're a hair sharp, it usually works in your favor, where when you're at the bottom of the scale, being a minuscule amount flat works in your favor. I always also try to bring it up to pitch, just like we would do with our guitar. Make sure there's no slack in the peg. So take it down below pitch and then bring it back up. Okay, the outside pairs look good. Now we'll do the middle. We'll try that by ear. I hear no more warbling and the stroboscope looks happy. So now we can move on up to the B. And of course B is on your window there. B is going to be right there. Oops, I'm on the wrong string. I've muted the wrong set of strings. We're cranking on the correct one. There we go, now we're right. There's our first B. Let's try the other side. We're definitely sharp there. Couple of other words about things while we're doing this. If you want to do this at home and you have access to a Stroboconn or a Strobo tuner or some kind of good strobe tuner, when you get your hammer and your tools, you can buy them online, that's okay, but don't buy the really cheap hammers from China because the metal is too soft. This is a US made hammer. It's kind of the basic entry-level one, but it's a US made hammer and it served us well. We learned the hard way on the cheap Chinese ones. We're doing the middle string. Trying to get all warble out of it. Sounds pretty good to my ear, but sometimes the ear can be deceiving, so we're going to double check by putting mutes in on both sides. There's one and the other, and our middle string is just still a smidgen flat. Listen to them all. That sounds really good. So I'm just going to proceed to continue to do this for a while and then we'll check in after a spell. Okay, so again, I don't know how well you're going to see this, but we're moving up the scale and we're getting up into F now. And for the F, we're going to be looking at a higher note because we're up on the scale. So we start reading the higher scales, and as we can see, that one's pretty sharp. these higher strings are tricky because it takes nothing to go too far in one direction or the other. Okay. And the other one, the far string, way too sharp. And creep up the pitch. That one went too easy. Now let's listen to middle 3. You can hear the warbling. Just about got that one out there just by ear, but we'll stick the mutes in and double check it. They're just ever so slightly flat there. There, spot on. Alright. So we're going to keep on moving up the scale, but I figured we'd show you, where we're at as we start to get higher. Okay, just for fun, to give you an idea where we are, here's our A440. There's our A at an octave. And let's try to go down an octave. Oops. Excuse me. Ooh, yuck. This A is good. Octave up is good. Octave down, not so good. So we're making progress. Okay, so just a progress report. I'm working my way up the piano. We've got 3 octaves good here, so listen to some A's here. And we'll try to go up to a B, I guess. So that's as many octaves as we've gotten tuned yet. But, we can go anywhere in between, I suppose. And we're sounding good. So progress is happening. And still compare that to the octave that isn't tuned yet. Ah! It's horrible. Terrible. So we're going to work on going farther down, but we're working our way up first from the A440 up. Just because I decided to. Okay, memo to self. You can only go a full half step out of tune on the dial on the Strobo tuner, not on the Stroboconn. Sorry, but we're working our way down now. This whole piano was sharp. And now we're sort of getting into the lower register. So obviously we want it to totally not move, but it's going to go anywhere. If it's drifting a smidge flat, that's preferred. Look how sharp that is. This is a D, by the way. So you should be looking at that window. That looks much better. And then the middle string, along with one of the top strings. Much better. And we'll continue on down. Okay, so I'm pretty much sure we're done. It worked good. When you get to this really bottom register, there's some harmonics in there that are really hard to decipher. So let's just put the sustain pedal on, and we'll pick A here and just play it across a couple of octaves. So. So we sound good there. We'll pick. We'll go with C. Yeah. I don't know much about pianos, to be honest with you. I just know how to run a stroboscope. Doesn't sound too bad. Just pick some other random note here. Let's go with this. So, yeah, I think we're pretty good. I'm going to fiddle through it a little bit, just double check it with the scope, but generally it's just a matter of getting all the strings to go together. When you get into the real upper echelons and the really lower echelons, you kind of have to trust the scope even more, because there's so many harmonics, particularly in the bass strings, that it can just really get to be a muddied mess. But by George, I think we got it, so I'm going to test a little bit more and then call it a win.